Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to give you a quick update right off the bat about my art book that many of you have purchased from my store recently, and I guess in the past couple of months, that I'm really happy about. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much about being really patient about it as well, because I know that it's been super delayed, way more delayed than I ever expected it to, mostly due to the COVID pandemic, because it was like pretty poor timing that I was supposed to place the order, and then just then the whole thing started back in January, and it's been delay after delay. But thankfully I did manage to get it made, and I am finally receiving the shipment on Monday. Today is, what was today? Today's Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday? I don't know, whatever, but on the 8th. So I'm receiving the shipment on the 8th. I don't know if I can actually pick it up on the 8th, but it should be within days of the shipment arriving in the port. So I'm extremely excited about that, and I really can't wait to get the books and finally be able to ship them out to you guys. I've just been preparing in the meantime, and I wanted to show you guys the advanced copies that the manufacturer sent me, just so I can have a couple of samples to show to you guys, I guess, and to see them for myself. And they turned out fantastic. I've already posted about this on Instagram probably a few weeks ago, but I wanted to give it just another give you guys another thorough look on what everything turned out like. So this is the holographic print that comes with the Kickstarter orders, and there was also an option in my store to get one of the bundles which come with this print as well. I will most likely sell it separately. I only ordered 1,000 copies just in case, so that will be the extent of how many copies of this print I will have, but I guess at least 500 of them are going to be sent to people. So the quality turned out really great, and of course, as you can see, it has a holographic stamp on it with this little detail of my logo right here, which I'm really glad I added. It was kind of like a last minute decision on my part. But yeah, so this is what the print looks like, and I'm just gonna show you guys a close-up. Yeah, I'm really so pleased with the quality. I think it turned out incredible, a lot better than I was expecting, and I finally figured out how to control the darkness of a printed image, which, whatever, I'm just gonna, I guess, talk about that some other time because it's totally irrelevant here. But yeah, so these are the books, and I'm gonna show you the soft cover first, which has these beautiful flaps, and I'm super pleased about how it turned out as well. It was a really lengthy process to design the jacket for me, but I'm really glad that I did it all myself, because I am a control freak and I was able to control every aspect of it, and therefore I am super happy about it. And if anything's out of place, I have nobody to blame but myself. I really like this little detail. I really like putting in like hidden stuff. So one of the things about the cover that I wanted to do subtly is my pen name, Cosmic Spectrum. I didn't want it to take up too much space, and I kind of liked how I don't know, I guess concise the cover looked without this right here, and I really didn't know where to put art of my name, so I came up with the idea of just making it a spot gloss that is transparent, and I'm really glad I did it because I think it turned out exactly how I wanted, so you can see it from certain angles but not from others. So yeah, and these are the inside pages. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this on my Instagram already, but I just wanted to do a quick flip through as well. I think the colors turned out amazing. Much better than my previous art book, I think. I don't really know why, but sometimes printers lean towards a color, I guess. I think this happened to lean towards red a little bit, which I personally really love. I usually add a little bit of an overall color balance red to all my illustrations anyway, so it seriously worked out. But yeah, what else? So this is the hardcover, and what's notable about the hardcover is this little ribbon thing that I put in. I got to choose the color for that, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, it looks great, just pretty much how I expected it to. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think the quality is, again, fantastic. And yeah, it's super awesome seeing a hardcover version of an art book. I've never had that made before. And obviously the insides are the same as the softcover. And they both have this beautiful holographic edge that I'm so happy I got to get. I mean, it cost quite a bit extra, but I think it was definitely worth it. And yeah, you can't really see it in this light too well, but it's really nice how it looks kind of pastel-y sometimes, and in different lighting it's a lot brighter, which is really cool. So yeah, so that's about it. And I'm just gonna cut this footage short right here. Okay, so I'm back with the rest of the video, which will be part 2 of the Q&A video that I uploaded a few days ago. I just wanted to go through the rest of the questions from the community post that I made last week, which were great questions, by the way. And thank you all so much for leaving all the positive comments. And I really am so glad to see that the videos that I'm posting with the real-time sketching have been inspiring to you guys. That's honestly the stuff that makes me feel like it's really worth it to just post my content out there, and I'm so glad that I decided to join the YouTube community. Anyways, so the first question that I have on the list was actually about my books. So somebody asked when the books will be sent out to the people that have already bought them, and the answer to that is probably at some point before the end of June. I can't be 100% sure when. Obviously, I'm gonna do my best to get them out as quickly as I can, but I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to be able to pick up the shipment. I do know that it's going to be next week, and then after that I will need a couple of days just for the logistics to get some things in order, and I do have to get the Kickstarter orders done first, because the Kickstarter supporters or backers have been waiting for a little bit of a longer time, obviously, and I just have to get that out of the way first because they're the ones that funded the book. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I will be shipping out all the Store and V pre-orders. I'm assuming that the time difference between shipping those orders out won't be too big. Like, I'm hoping to fulfill everything within a couple weeks at most, which I think is totally doable because I'm pretty much ready to go. I just need to set up a pipeline for pre-orders that's as efficient as possible. And obviously, I don't know if you guys know this, but I did run the Kickstarter all by myself, and I did the book myself and ordered things and basically am organizing all the stuff alone, which is a little more time consuming than if I had a team of people or anything. Like, I'm obviously going to ask a couple of friends if they can help me, but predominantly am doing this by myself, which will make it a little more lengthy than usual, but at least you'll know that I did everything myself, which I think is a little more meaningful. So yeah, I'll just be signing a bunch of the books first, which will obviously be taking some time, like the couple of days or whatever that I mentioned, and figuring out the fastest way to do it. So yeah, I guess that was kind of a needlessly long answer, but I just wanted you guys to know that I'm on top of it always, like, and I'm doing as much as I can to facilitate the process. Mostly what I've been doing so far is waiting, unfortunately, which is something that I can't do anything about, but the shipment is almost here, and I'm extremely excited to do all the fulfillments. And I'm also waiting for some custom wrapping paper that I ordered. I really hope that that gets here in time as well. Because of the COVID and the pandemic, it's hard to say with the timing of things, but hopefully it'll arrive in time. And I will make a video about, well, at least I'm planning to make a video about Kickstarter fulfillment. And I also wanted to tell you guys why I decided to do a Kickstarter and how it all went down, and just do like a little vlog style video. But yeah, that's in the future, so I guess hopefully that answers the question of when I'm going to send out the books. The next question is, will I ever do more comics in the future? Or there was another question that asked, will I do any more comics? So I wanted to talk about that because it's something I've been thinking about like nonstop for the past several months or longer. And I don't know if I'm not sure how much you guys know about my comic involvement history, but I've always really, really liked comics, and I had a webcomic way back in the day when I was in high school. I think I started when I was like in grade 10 or something, and I posted it on DeviantArt, and a lot of my followers are still around from way back then, which is incredible. And every time somebody mentions asking about if I will continue my comic, or when somebody recognizes my characters, it honestly means the world to me. And it is, I think, the most meaningful activity that I've ever pursued in my life. So since I put that on the back burner, I have been thinking about it constantly. And one of the reasons why I took the project that was Grimoire Noir, that is a graphic novel that came out last summer, I chose to work on it even though it had nothing to do with my own story or my characters, because I just wanted to get my skills up and I wanted to gain some experience in comics. So yeah, where was I going with this? Okay, so yes, the answer is yes. I will definitely do comics in the future. At least I'm planning to do it, and my enthusiasm for that endeavor has not faded in the last 10 years at least. So it's safe to say that I am going to see it through to some extent. In terms of where I stand currently, I've been trying to rewrite my story I've been trying to do it for a very long time, but I've made some significant progress in the last few months, like noteworthy progress, way more than I have in any recent years. So I'm extremely excited about that, and I do think about it a lot, and I'm just currently struggling with scheduling writing sessions, because I do obviously want to write it myself, and I really want to make it worthwhile, which is something that sometimes stops me or like impedes my progress, I guess, because it's kind of complicated. Like, the more you want something, sometimes the more difficult it can be to get to it. I'm sure a lot of you will understand exactly what I mean when I say that. But yeah, I guess to cut the answer short, or shorter, lest I ramble for like another 20 minutes about this one topic, I am working on something, and I think things are starting to come together in a way where I will be able to afford to put more and more time into it. So I'm gonna safely say that so far it's looking like things are working out in a positive way, and I don't think I'll have to put it off as much as I had to in the past because of like financial reasons and such. So yes, I am definitely planning to work on my own project, and that's something I'm currently in the midst of pursuing and trying to make more time for. Okay, so on to the next question, which is, are you happy where you are now? And yes, absolutely, I'm very happy where I am now. And I actually want to talk about this a little bit. And the reason why I chose to answer this question in a video is because it's something that gave me pause, because I am actually very happy where I am right now. And I never really thought that I would ever be in this position. So I kind of wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how I felt in the past, and I guess where I am now and how I ended up here, but in a very concise way, because that's like an autobiography type question, I guess, in general. But so I have had a lot of issues with like depression and not so much anxiety. I mean, I have definitely experienced like acute anxiety in more recent years. Well, not like in the last couple of years, but before that, I've had some very, very anxious years. And it actually got up to a point where it was like on a completely different level, where I suddenly understood that anxiety is something that varies so vastly for people, I'm sure, that to an extent that I never realized before, because I actually experienced it in ways that I never have before, and it was quite shocking, to be honest. Like, it was completely debilitating, and it would sneak up on me out of nowhere, and I would have like these times when I would feel extremely uncomfortable for no discernible reason in situations that I've been in a million times before, but I would just get like engulfed by this crazy, inexplicable fear, and I felt like I just needed to leave and like go home and shut myself in my bedroom and not see anybody and not talk to anybody. And it was something for sure. But anyways, I don't really want to get into that. But before that, I mean, that was like somewhat a short period of time in which I experienced really, really acute anxiety symptoms like that. Before, it was more mild, and it was mostly depression that I suffered from that ranged from mild to severe, but was present in my life almost constantly. So like for as long as I can remember, there were always long stretches of time in which I was depressed, either like moderately or severely. I mean, I've had some normal, like kind of normal times, I suppose, but it was something that was pretty constant. But anyway, so at some point in my life, I honestly kind of succumbed to it in a way that I thought that people who claimed that they are really happy with where they are and their life is great and everything is just good and they're happy to be alive every day, I really genuinely thought that they were lying. Like, I thought they must be lying, because there's no way that it can be possible, because I was just so miserable all the time, and I was so used to it by that point that I just became convinced that everybody felt like that too, but they were just really good at hiding it or something like that, you know what I mean? Anyways, but you know, I'm happy to say that obviously I was wrong about that. Like, I was wrong, and I have come to the conclusion that it is in fact possible to just be content and to just be in a good place in life. And I do in fact enjoy every single day of my life, and I feel happy every morning when I wake up. And I never thought that that's something that was possible, because for the vast majority of like my conscious years that I remember, like past being like 13 or 14 or something, every morning was just like, oh god, you know, like this again. I know that sounds really funny and dramatic, but it really was like that, you know? Most of the time it was like that. It was just like coping, and like my biggest coping mechanism was just the fact that, you know, it'll pass, because everything passes. And, you know, I just told myself that whatever, like, one of these days, maybe I will be happy. Anyways, I don't want to ramble about this stuff. Maybe I'll talk about, like, depression and stuff and how I dealt with it some other time. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that I took a lot of steps to fix it. And at some point I did go to see a well, I don't think I ever saw like an actual psychiatrist, but I did go to the doctor and I requested a mental health assessment, because I don't know, I did at some point reach a point where I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just like actively try to fix it or something. So I did get diagnosed with like clinical depression or whatever, but I don't really think it was an accurate diagnosis, because honestly the test was like a joke, and it was just feeble, you know? That's the most I can say about that. It was feeble, I was unconvinced, and they offered me medication like immediately, which I thought was very suspect. So I declined it, and I kind of decided to just talk to the person that the doctor recommended that came free. I was in no position to be able to afford any sort of real therapy or go shopping for therapists or anything like that. It was completely out of the question, and kind of still is, you know. Who can afford that? I mean, honestly, it's really not cheap. But being in Canada, they do offer you like maybe 10 or 12 free sessions with like a social worker type of person. And I did talk to her. They just assigned me to like the person in the local like doctor's medical center that I went to. Anyways, so I did talk to her several times, and then I saw her again some years later. And I will say that I very much recommend doing at least that if you can, because it does help. I can't say that it like, you know, fixed everything or anything like that, but it was a pretty important step, I would say, to take in general. But I don't want to linger about that. I don't want to get into like the proper or the official channels in which you can seek help for mental health type of things. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking mostly about my circumstances and like my internal, I guess, struggles that I dealt with before getting to this point now, at which I can say that I'm very, very happy. And I think a lot of my ability to be able to enjoy every day and be able to enjoy a lot of simple things now is because I did go through like a pretty huge emotional ordeal, and I've experienced some really, really dark emotions in such a like devastating way that now it really kind of put things in perspective, you know what I mean? And I can also say that for that reason too, I can't say that I regret my experience on working on that graphic novel that I mentioned earlier, because as some of you might have heard me say before on this channel, that was also like a horrible experience, and it was really difficult, and it was like some of the worst times of my life as well. But because of that, I don't know, I feel like it's good to have been there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how else to describe that or how else to word it, but having been in a place where like you're so broke and you're so trapped in like 10 different ways all at once, and you just feel like the walls are closing in, like just to experience that shit feeling and just trying to claw your way out of it, and like, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm talking about my own experience. I think obviously a lot of people go through things that are a lot worse, but it doesn't matter because it got so bad for me at some point that like it severely affected my health, like in a horrible way. Like my teeth were getting fucked up. Like I had to get oral surgery to remove a cyst that was growing in my mouth, like in my gums, and then like just my teeth were freaking rotting, and like I just had to go to I spent like at least 6 or 7 or probably around that, like thousands of dollars on fixing my teeth over the last couple of years as a result. And I honestly think it was because of stress as much as other things as well. Like, but anyways, like the ways in which that stress can fuck up your health is not to be trifled with. Like, I swear to God, I've experienced a lot of like weird health problems that I've never had before. Like nobody really in my family had, and it all came at like the same time, and it was all induced by stress, 100%, because that's the only way that it makes. Otherwise, it would have been too much of a coincidence for all that shit to just suddenly bubble up to the surface, you know? So I became kind of like a hypochondriac, so I was going to the doctor all the time, and I had like some horrible allergic reaction to medication that I've never had before, and I don't think I'm allergic to that medication. I just think it was like a stress-induced type of reaction, because my body was constantly in a state of like, it was like a stress response state. Anyways, whatever. Without getting into that, I just have to say that I feel like it painted a very clear picture of just how shitty things can really get, you know? And how you don't need, like, sometimes the circumstances that produce this absolutely horrific state of stress and, like, hopelessness are not as drastic as you'd think. Like, obviously there are a lot of things that can happen in a person's life that are out of their control, that can just take them by surprise, and it can also produce like acute stress responses and stuff like that. But you know, it goes a lot further than you'd think. Like, it doesn't have to be anything obvious, like a death in the family, or like, you know, like a divorce or some crazy thing like that. It can be a lot more insidious and subtle, and just, I guess I don't really want to talk specifically about what I went through. Maybe some other day. I mean, it's kind of irrelevant. All I wanted to say is just, like, having experienced some crazy shit like that really made me seriously reassess how I conduct myself and who I am as a person, and why it is that I ended up in a situation like that in the first place. It made me realize that dependence on people is a pretty bad thing. Like, and overall, just, I don't know, like, I could talk about this forever, and God knows I have, because that's what it took for me to be able to move past it. But what I wanted to say is that after a lot of things, like, metaphorically burned down in my life, I was able to come out of that and understand that it's not that I caused it so much, and it's not that it was my fault, but I did a lot of things in life that facilitated certain things to happen to me. Like, the way that I looked at myself was really bad for my life in general, because I did lack in it wasn't like self-respect so much, but it was self-worth. I would say it was 100% self-worth. So, like, you know, never underestimate how much self-worth can lack of self-worth can wreak havoc on your life, and how far it can actually reach, you know, from all the way from your personal relationships to your work relationships, to your work opportunities, to what you end up doing, to where you end up in your life, etc. So I think it's really important in general to kind of take a close look at your relationship with yourself, because that's what I ended up doing, and I did that for a long time. Like, it took me years to kind of go over things one by one. And eventually I was able to, like, zero in on some glaring issues in my attitude that kind of created a bunch of negative circumstances all around me. And I started to remove them. And once I was able to actively change some things and remove a key person from my life, and then actively, like, set some serious boundaries between other people and myself in my life, it honestly started fixing itself at a way more rapid rate than you'd think. So I guess overall what I'm trying to say is that I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to say with this, honestly. I don't know. It's probably pointless to, like, go on this really, really long rant about some vaguely relevant thing at this point, because the question was pretty simple. Like, am I happy where I am? Yeah, I'm totally happy. And I count my blessings every day. And I'm grateful for where I am, and I'm happy at where I am, and I got myself to where I am in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, it's not all just me. I had help from a lot of people, but overall, like, it's a good place to be, and it is possible to just be content with your life, as it turns out. So, that was an extremely long answer to a very simple and straightforward question. So before I change my mind on whether I even want to publish that or not, I'm just gonna move straight on to the next question, and then I'll make up my mind about it later. And the next question is, as a beginner, should I start off with making pieces or just sketching the basics in my sketchbook? And how long have you been drawing in years? So that's 2 questions. Okay, so the first part is, as a beginner, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I would say just do both. I don't really understand the question. Like sketching basics versus making pieces. Yeah, by all means do both. I think it would be bad to pick just one of those things. For me personally, I find just studies and studying basics quite boring a lot of the time. So I think it's really important to study some and then draw for fun also. And doing finished pieces for yourself is always a good idea, because I have known some artists throughout my life that have this bad habit of never completing any artwork. So like it's seldom do these artists finish anything. I mean, obviously this was years ago. Like you can't exactly go through your entire life not being able to finish anything, but it was like a observable common bad habit that certain artists that I know had in the past. And I would say just try not to get into a habit of not finishing things or only sketching, because it is very important to do both, to just sketch sometimes and be able to be loose and do things quickly, but it's also important to be able to concentrate and sit down and learn how to complete a piece. So yeah, hopefully that was a sufficient answer to that question. And the next question is, how long have I been drawing in years? I would say like 20, maybe longer than that in years. When I started taking it seriously, I would say is when I was maybe like 12. And by taking it seriously, I mean I just started drawing more often, so that would make it 18 years. It's a long time. But don't let that be a discouraging number, because it really doesn't matter. I know plenty of people who started drawing a lot later in life and they were able to catch up quite fast. Like, it only really matters on how serious you're about it and where you want to go with it. So yeah. The next question is, who would you be if you didn't start art? That's a really interesting question, because I've thought about it a lot actually throughout my life. Sometimes I wonder how much of my identity has been shaped just because I decided to pursue art, but I also feel like it was never really a conscious choice. It was something that was just meant to happen, and so it did, is what it feels like to me. But I have thought about what it would be like maybe if I never really got that into art, because who knows, like life can go in many different ways. But yeah, my other predominant interests aside from art and drawing are music and humanities. So like I really like music a lot. I did play violin for many years when I was younger, even though I kind of dropped that because I really hated it and my parents kind of forced me into it. But that's something I devoted a lot of my life to up until maybe I was like 18 or 17 or so. And then after that, I tried learning a bunch of other instruments for fun. So music is something I really care about and enjoy greatly. And I find it also to be a great source of inspiration for myself as well. I really like to sing, and maybe if I didn't pursue art, I would have been more aggressively interested in having pursued some sort of music related thing. Although I've never tried to compose anything, but I'm definitely open to the idea. So maybe one day I'll try to write a song or something. But anyways, aside from that, I like the humanities, which means I'm into things like psychology and philosophy and sociology. I like those things, and literature. I like those things a lot, and this became a more clear interest to me later on in life. So while I was at school and stuff, I didn't really care about anything. I was too depressed to care about anything. But then after I graduated from college and I was just done with all of that, even though at that point I was already kind of interested. I mean, I guess I was noticeably more interested in a lot of these things than some people I knew, so I figured my interest in it was slightly more elevated than your average person. But after I had more free time and I was pretty much on my own is when I started to read a lot more and just to get into that side of things in general. And I find it to be really fascinating. And, you know, maybe if I never got into art and didn't choose to pursue music, I would maybe want to study something like philosophy or psychology. And I'm very interested in like metaphysics and slightly more obscure, well, not so much obscure, but like I don't know how to put this. I'm not gonna say new age because that's the wrong word for it, but whatever, I'm just gonna move right on. So yeah, those are my other interests. So I suppose like if I never got into art, I'd pursue one of those things. Maybe study literature. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, so the next question is, I'm just gonna read it. So the person says, I'm going back into art after like 3 years. Do you have any tips on how to get better or improve anatomy, art style, etc.? So that's a little bit of a vague question. I could probably answer it better if I knew specifically what you wanted as a goal. Like if you're getting back into art, first of all, I don't know how old you are, which matters, because if you're young, then just like have fun, draw for fun, whatever. If you're older and if you're thinking of pursuing it as a career, I would say maybe spend some time into looking for some resources to learn basics. And I mean, I guess that's like a video all in itself, because I could talk about this at length, but it's a little bit of a vague question, so I'm not sure how to answer it. But yeah, I'm gonna say in order to improve off top, I would say try to do figure studies, try to do some life drawing. Obviously you probably can't do that right now because of the pandemic, but there's plenty of things like that online. So there is like Quick Poses, I think, is a website. There was some other really good one that I don't remember. I think it was called Action something. Line of Action, maybe? Yeah, I think that was another website with a lot of references. So yeah, try to do figure drawing. That's a good way to improve. And there's a lot of free tutorials about that all over the place if you just give it a quick Google search or search Pinterest. And I do have a gestured figure drawing tutorial myself on Gumroad. So there's that. I mean, that's as good a place to start as any. So that would be my advice for you. The next question is, well, it's not really a question, but person says, I want to start my art channel, but tend to lose the thought, thinking they're already established artists and they're huge in the huge YouTube art world. How should I choose my content that is different from others? Okay, so I wanted to answer that really quick. I don't want to go on and on about it at length, but I'm just gonna say, if you want to start a YouTube channel, just do it. Just start it, and it doesn't matter how many established artists there are out there. They're no threat to you. In fact, they have nothing to do with you. Like, art is one of those things, especially YouTube or Instagram or anything like that. It's not a competition. It doesn't matter how many people there are out there. It's not like there's a finite amount of people to be interested in art that are going to just like spread out amongst the popular people and that's it. It doesn't work that way. As somebody who like art, you can follow many people, you can like many different people's content. So don't ever let other people's success or popularity stop you from pursuing what you want to do or from doing what you want to do. So if you wanted to start a YouTube channel, I would just say, think about what you want to do, what kind of content you would want to make, what would be fun to you, and just do that. And people will find it and they will like your content. Like, there will always be somebody out there who likes your stuff, and they will find you. I don't know, try to be active in the community, etc. Stuff like that. But yeah, don't let like established people discourage you from pursuing your own path, you know? Yeah. And the next question is, how long do you finish one artwork, both traditional and digital? Do you always finish them in one day? The answer is no. I mean, it's really great when I can finish something in one day. Sometimes I do. I tend to use a pretty time efficient process, so it's not impossible for me to finish something in a day, but I often have to juggle many different projects, and sometimes I need to get feedback from clients, obviously. So it's kind of like a back and forth process. So I will break it down into different clear steps. So obviously I'll have to finish a step to show a rough to somebody, and then I have to wait for their feedback. So often the process will drag out over several days or something like that. But it is possible to finish a piece from start to finish. It also greatly depends on what kind of piece it is, how many characters are in it, what it contains, like if there's a background and the level of detail, etc. So it really, really depends. Like sometimes I can finish something really quickly in like a couple of hours or like a few hours, and other times, like for instance, the holographic print that I made for my Kickstarter campaign to accompany my new art book, that piece was one of the longest things that I have worked on in recent memory. Like it took me days and days, and I don't even know if it's like a visibly more time consuming thing. It's just that I guess I decided to make the line art a lot thinner than I usually do, and it ended up taking me so long to line. It was ridiculous. But yeah, sometimes it can take a long time. Like I'd say that piece maybe took me like maybe even 30 hours or something, maybe 25 hours, which is a very long time compared to some other stuff that I work on. But it's also quite detailed, and I really wanted to like polish it because I knew that it was going to be a special print. So yeah, it really, really depends. I guess I didn't really answer the question, but there you have it. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's about it. And I think I answered most of the questions. A couple of them were pretty specific, and the topics I think called for an entire video based on that one topic alone, like career trajectory advice, how to get freelance jobs, stuff like that. So I do want to talk about that in greater detail in another video that I want to dedicate to that specific topic in the future. And I do know that in this Q&A, I kind of went radically all over the place discussing things that are maybe not even so relevant to art and such. But I don't want to be too secretive about myself as a person with you guys, because the whole point is to reach out and to just form a community, I guess. And for many years, I've conducted myself in an extremely like limited communication type of way on social media, where I wouldn't really share a whole lot of what happens in my life or any of the struggles that I deal with. And I know that sometimes that kind of behavior can come off as like, oh, everything is great and this person's life is just like this, and you know, it's so easy for them or something like that. I mean, not that I want to become like a whiner or anything, but I just wanted to kind of share a little more about me with you guys, so that you know that I'm not that different, and that I do struggle with a lot of things quite a bit, and that is kind of similar for a lot of us, and that it's possible to overcome a lot of things, you know. And for me personally, I can actually say that I managed to ward off depression for at least a couple of years now. And that is highly peculiar, because I've never had a period of time in my life that long that I haven't experienced depression. But yeah, this certainly brings up a lot of interesting thoughts in my head. So I do believe that a lot of the depression that I experienced through my life was circumstantial. And I know that it's different for everybody, but I just think it's really important to talk about that, at least to some extent, because I was under the impression, like I was pretty much giving up, because I thought that it's just something that was wrong with my brain chemistry, and that's just something that I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life, and my life is just gonna be shit, you know? That's what I thought, but it turned out that it's not true, and so I wanted to kind of dip my toe and talk about it for a little bit. And, you know, if you guys want me to explain to you in a little more detail about my thoughts on that and how I dealt with it and such, I would love to talk about it more, because I just think that it does help a lot sometimes, and I feel like maybe back in the day when if I heard somebody talk about it, maybe I would have gotten to work a little bit sooner on fixing my life. So yeah, I mean, I just want to kind of end it on a better note, more positive note. So that positive note is that I got through it, and I'm really happy where I am right now, and I really am living the type of life that I've wanted to, and I never thought that it was going to happen, but it did, and I worked hard towards it, and it's possible. So yeah, I hope that the answers were sufficient to the questions that you guys asked, and I will make more videos in the future addressing more specific topics that I did set aside. So yeah, thanks so much for visiting my channel again, and I hope this video kept you company, and I really hope that you found out something new or useful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!